One of the most important factors necessary for establishing a fantastic mix is proper panning. That's appropriately positioning the individual elements of your mix across the stereo spectrum. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's 5.1 or stereo or 7.1 or whatever elaborate setup you have. All you need to do is know exactly where to place what and why you're placing it there. Today, I'll be sharing with you my panning techniques for this particular project, and I'll also be sharing with you some factors you need to consider when making panning decisions for your projects. And that's what's coming up. Hey, I'm Akurios, and you're welcome to this week's edition of Making Music with Akurios. And if this is the first time you're seeing me, my name is Akurios. If you're a musician, a music producer, audio engineer, or you're just someone who's interested in sound, then this channel is for you. Go ahead and tap that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so that you're notified every time there's new content. Now let's head into this mix that I'm working on currently, and let's listen for some of the panning decisions I made, and I'll tell you why I made them. Let's just listen to a section here.
Never be afraid. We will put our trust in God. There may be troubles on our way.
Now, straight away, you can hear the percussions around. You can hear the bass. You can hear the low frequency elements. You can hear a couple of things going on. And if we decide to go over to a section where the backing vocals, the background vocalists come in, you can hear it goes this way.
Never be afraid. No, I trust in God. Yeah.
So straight away, you hear a couple of things. First of all, the lead vocal is still in front. The lead vocal is still leading the entire mix. And then the background vocals are surrounding the lead vocals somehow. And I'll show you exactly how I panned them to achieve that sound. So if we go straight away to the mixer here, you can see that my background vocal channels are here. Now we have from the top sopranos to the bottom bass, and I panned them in a very interesting manner. Here we have 70 to the right. The four soprano tracks are panned 70 left and right, one to the left, the other to the right. And then the altos, by the way, that's how I name my background vocals based on the harmony. Now, you could decide to name yours whichever way you want. That's entirely up to you. So all I'm doing here is just the sopranos are at 70, left and right, left and right. And then we have the altos at 60. The same thing, left, right, just alternating them, 4 tracks. And then we have tenors at 50, left, right, left, right, left, right, and the lowest sounding background vocals at 40. They're the closest to the very center. And I learned this technique from Dave Pensado, where he said that the lowest sounding vocals should be closer to the center, while the highest sounding vocals should be farther from the center. And while experimenting and trying out different things, I discovered that that works for me actually. So let's have a listen again.
Never be afraid. No, I trust in God. Yeah.
So by the way, the song is almost completely mixed. So all the things you can hear around it are other elements. Panning is not solely responsible for the quality of the sound that you hear. What you should listen for is the positioning across the stereo spectrum. And I must add here that you should be listening through proper headphones or your studio monitors, just a decent playback system so that you can hear exactly what is going on and have a decent representation of the mix. Okay, so now if we decide to solo the percussions here, the percussions are here and we solo them. Let's just quickly ungroup so that I can take away what I want to take away from this group. Okay, so you can hear very clearly that We have shakers to the left and the right, extreme left, extreme right, because I just want them to be, complementing each other on either side or from either side of the stereo, either extreme of the stereo spectrum. And then we have some loops here. So one of the things that you need to pay attention to is the frequency content of the element. Elements that have a lot of high frequency content should be farther away from the center. So those that have a lot of low frequency content or more low frequency content should be closer to the center. That way you have a decent spread and a decent stereo image frequency wise. Consider the bass. The bass is straight up in the middle, the center. Nothing, there's no other low frequency instrument similar to the bass that will compete with it at that position. It's right there at the center. And then I'll also add here that, okay, we have some guitars. The guitars here are doing something. We have the lead guitars. Muted guitars doing something with a lot of effects on them. Okay, so they're just doing what they're doing, and they're panned a little to the right, just around 60, 64 to the right, so that they're away from the lead vocal, not getting in the way of the lead vocal. And of course, we have acoustic guitars that are panned hard left and hard right. Yeah, sounding nice. So they're just there giving you that, still adding some percussive kind of feel because of the sound of the strings. And I mix them in such a way that the sound of the string, is bright and comes out, percussively. All right, so now let me mention here, talking about effects that I've applied on this. Now in Pro Tools, there's something called FMP right there on the send, track here. On this send track, when you send a track to a particular effect, you need to make sure that it's on follow main pan, so that if it's a delay or reverb or distortion, as we have here, or maybe tape echo, that the effects are in the same position, panning wise, as the original signal. So you don't want the effects to be occupying the entire stereo spectrum when the main signal is just on one side, 60 to the right. So you have to make sure that the effect follows the panning of the original signal, so that everything that you're adding to that signal stays with that signal in the stereo spectrum. I don't know if that makes sense. All right, so let's listen again.
Never be afraid, no. I trust in God, yeah. But we have the victory today.
In this mix, I also have a water drum right here, pan to 65 to the right. And it's sonically similar to the lead guitars that are playing the, muted percussive pattern. Now, they sound similar. So I wanted them to contribute the same thing or a similar thing to the entire mix generally. That's why I made both elements live in the same area of the stereo spectrum. So the water drum is at 65 and the electric guitars, the lead guitars, at 64. There's just a tiny little difference there in the stereo spectrum. So when you listen, you can hear that there is a difference in their sound, but I wanted them to contribute a similar thing percussion wise. Okay, when you listen to the entire mix,
Never be afraid, no. I trust in God.
and as you listen to the mix, think about the positioning. Think about what's on the left, what's on the right. How are these things positioned? What does my panning do to the mix? And what contribution does it make? Now our keys are here, and you can tell that I have my pad, my two pads here. all the way stereo. 100, 100, left and right. That's here. And the reason I took that decision was because it has a plain sound. So it's just a broad, flattish kind of sound, okay? So it's not disturbing anything, so it's stereo. And then I have the main piano also stereo, 100% left and 100% right, because I wanted that to lead. I wanted that to be one of the main instruments of the mix. Okay, so that has its sound and it's 100% stereo, but I have some other keys here that are not stereo. Like we have here, the vibe, the pluckish kind of sound, it's panned to the left, 100% and 68%. So having listened to these tracks individually, let's now listen for how they sound in the stereo spectrum in the context of the entire mix now.
Never be afraid, no. I'll trust in God. Yeah.
So one of the things you can tell is that you can hear everything at different levels, at different volume levels, different panning positions, different spots across the stereo spectrum. And you want to make sure that as you place these individual instruments across the stereo spectrum, you're considering the role you want them to play in the mix. And you're considering what instrument am I going to feature more? What instrument is going to be more in the background? So when you take these things into consideration, it informs that. Now, applying EQ and compression is not the foundation of achieving individual audibility of your mix elements. That's not the foundation. The foundation is panning, positioning. Where do you want them to live? And even if you're going to use automation to move them later on, panning automation or some other kind of automation, to move them around the stereo spectrum, you have to still determine where you're moving them from and where you're moving them to. So we've established a couple of things today. Number one, you need to consider the frequency content of the element of the mix before you decide where it's going to live. And then, in addition to that, you also have to have your big picture in mind. What are you trying to achieve with your mix? You can also try to be creative and do something outside the box and, totally throw away all the rules and decide to just be creative in a very, very, out of the box manner. But then we've also established that you can also use your mix elements to complement one another, especially those that are playing rhythms or percussive ones that are doing stuff on the left and on the right. That can actually contribute something to your entire mix by placing them strategically on the stereo spectrum. And also we've established that low frequency instruments are better placed closer to the center. The kick and the bass should be dead center, right in the middle, because they have a lot of low frequency energy that they contribute to the mix. And that's better positioned in the middle, where both the left and the right channels are receiving an equal amount of that energy. And also apply some creativity to your background vocal tracks. You can space them a bit based on the harmony type or the harmony part, and then make sure that they are not getting in the way of the lead vocal. So they are just around the lead vocal, complementing the lead vocal, supporting the lead vocal in the mix. So if you found that helpful, go ahead and tap the like button and give it a thumbs up, and go ahead and share as wide as you wish. And if you have any questions or you want to reach out to me for any reason whatsoever relating to what we're doing and making music, feel free to do so. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, tap that subscribe button right now and tap the notification bell so that you're notified when there's new content on this channel. So till next time, I'm Akurios and I'm out.